What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about the newest Netflix original movie that I was actually very excited to watch. This is obviously the newest film, Fear Street Prom Queen. And if you were unfamiliar, a few years ago, Netflix released this trilogy of movies called Fear Street, and each one was labeled a different year. And it was a really cool experience because it kind of showed the potential of what these streaming services could do. Three separate films that all interconnect their stories that were released on, I think it was like a week or every other week basis. And I really enjoyed those movies. They weren't necessarily perfect by any means, but they were really fun horror stories that create this very large, immersive world. And the lore of the world was really fascinating. And being that it was originally written by R.L. Stine, R.L. Stine was a huge part of my childhood. I loved the Goosebumps series when I was growing up. And obviously, Fear Street was his attempt to kind of dive more into young adult horror rather than just horror for younger children. And I liked that about Fear Street. They took a dark approach. There were some gnarly practical effects in that movie, like some really disgusting kills, which I was not expecting when I watched it. And I loved those movies. I thought they were a lot of fun. I've revisited them a few times since then, and it's just a really fun and enjoyable series. And so I heard that they were doing another installment, but the previous director wasn't attached, which kind of surprised me. And this was supposed to be an entirely different story, unrelated to the remainder of the characters that were unrelated to the characters that were in the original installments. And so I went into this with an open mind, was really hoping to enjoy it. And the film I'm going to be telling you about today is Fear Street Prom Queen. Fear Street Prom Queen is directed by Matt Palmer, who will be voted queen at Shadyside High's 1988 prom. For underdog Lori, competition is cutthroat even before someone starts killing off the candidates. I was really excited to watch this movie. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of those three original Fear Street movies, and I was hoping to enjoy this. And what I will say about this movie is it is complete and utter garbage. I hated this movie. I thought that it was so underdeveloped, poorly written. I didn't care about any of the characters. The kills in this movie were relatively lackluster. And I just felt like the entire time I was watching this, how with the first three movies in this franchise did you create this world that's so immersive and interesting, entertaining, and engaging, and you come back with the most formulaic slasher imaginable that gets what a fundamental horror movie is supposed to be, tries to execute it in the laziest way imaginable. And I just really couldn't stand this movie. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it as I break it down for you today. So at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Lori, who is kind of an outcast at her school. And despite being an outcast and being viewed pretty horribly by most of the people in her high school, she is still up for winning prom queen this year. And we're introduced to all of the different girls who have been nominated for prom queen. And she is really close to her friend Megan, who's actually played by Suzanna Son from the movie Red Rocket. I loved her performance in that movie and was really excited to see her in this. And the two of them are fast friends, but we can see very early on, it seems like Megan is probably a little bit more into Lori than she realizes. And so we get a little bit of the dynamic of their relationship early on in the movie. And there's all of this, excitement riding on prom and who's going to win prom queen. And so eventually we get to the day before the dance and a masked figure shows up and starts killing off kids at the high school, and in particular, the girls who have been nominated for prom queen and their boyfriends. And the entirety of the film is once this group of kids figures out that there's a mass killer on the loose, their fight for survival while they are attending their school prom. So like I said, this movie is terrible, and I really don't have like any positives to say other than some of the kills are interesting. Most of them are kind of over the top and lame. Like, I'm all about, like, in the 80s, some of the more ridiculous kills that don't make any sense. In this movie, someone's hand gets chopped off with a paper cutter, and it's like good luck cutting through bone with something like that. But regardless, like, there's some fun moments that, a slasher should incorporate. Like, if you're going to watch a slasher movie, there should be fun, innovative, and inventive kills. And I'm not even saying that the kills in this movie are super inventive, but at least there was some fun gore that helped me get through this hour and a half movie. But aside from that, I hated this, and I think there are a ton of reasons not to enjoy it. For starters, I did not like any of the performances in this movie outside of Suzanna Son, who I think did the best job she possibly could with the character that she portrayed. One of the things that I really struggled with in this movie is our lead character, Lori. I don't think the actress was bad by any means, but I think the character is incredibly underwritten. Her only personality trait is that she lives at home with her single mom. Something happened between her and her family in the community, and no one likes her. That's it. That's her only personality trait, is that she's an outcast and she's quiet and to herself. That's it. And I feel like for this type of a movie, I want more. I need more out of the performance, or I need more out of the writing. And I didn't really get any of that from either. And it was just kind of a slog to get through when the best character in the movie is a side character who doesn't get a whole lot of screen time. And that was incredibly unfortunate. Most of the other characters that show up to get killed are your typical cliche asshole high school student. There's not really anything special or interesting with them, which also makes the movie a slog when they're kind of set off to the side. One of the things I love about slasher movies, and I go back to talking about this a lot on my channel, Friday the 13th is a perfect example. Those movies are not perfect by any means, but what they are is incredibly entertaining and enjoyable. Even when they don't write great characters, each character is an overblown caricature. Each character has this one thing that sort of defines them, which is what makes the movie entertaining to watch, is the overblown absurdity attached to the character. This doesn't have any of that. All of the characters in this are incredibly one note and uninspired, which makes the movie a very difficult slog to get through. When you don't care about anybody that's on screen, it's very, very hard to stay invested. I also hated the look of the killer in this. I feel like so many of these like new revamped slasher movies are like people in some kind of trench coat, overcoat, or raincoat with like the most generic mask imaginable. And that's exactly what this is. It's a person in a red raincoat with the most generic mask that you've ever seen, which makes it a lot less interesting to explore. It makes it a lot less interesting to watch when that's all that it is. And like I said, even the kills in this movie are very underwhelming. Like some of them, it just didn't make sense when the weapon would make contact with a person, like how it would show up, because it seemed like so much of this was heavily reliant on CGI to kind of to convey the kills that they wanted to get across. It just wasn't gnarly or intense, not anywhere near like the bread cutter kill in the first Fear Street movie, which was one of the gnarliest, most disgusting things I've ever seen in a film. And this tried to go for that a couple of times, but I was just so checked out, I didn't really care in any particular moment. And the other issue I have with this is it is one of the dumbest twists in a movie I've ever seen. Like one of the laziest. I was watching this with my family on the couch, and we kind of look at each other, and it's like, this is exactly what's going to happen. And we were right. And it's hilarious that it was that uninspired and that poorly put together that you can literally just say, hey, that's what it is, and that's exactly what it is. And the movie at the end tries to tie everything into the original trilogy, but I don't know how you could get anyone to care at all about watching another movie in this series when this is so incredibly bad. There's nothing to like about this. The pacing is awful. It felt a lot longer than 90 minutes. The characters aren't super likable. It's just really uninspired. And I feel like I've talked about this so many times this year. Most recently, I talked about that Finn Wolfhard Hell of a Summer movie. It seems like there are so many people that love horror movies and that have a concept of how to make a horror movie, but they have no idea what makes them successful. And that is another perfect example with this movie. This person clearly knows how to make a slasher movie. They know what goes into it, but they have no idea what makes the slashers that we all love so much incredibly effective. And that's why this movie was really hard to get through. It's because there's nothing special about it. It's very cliche. It's very formulaic. And I would skip over this completely. And if you've never seen it before, just watch the original Fear Street trilogy because they're awesome. So have you seen Fear Street Prom Queen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was horrible. I hated it, and I will never watch it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.